sim racers from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beasts wheel to wheel around the hallowed grounds. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet. Perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of the early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series, presented by Sim Experience, starts now.
For the second night in a row, the Lionheart Racing Series visits the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway to kick off the championship run to Auto Club in December. Yesterday, it was the Dallara IR18s heading out onto the track, but they turned the track over to one of the most legendary cars in open-wheel history. The aero technology utilized by the Dallara IR18s was first popularized almost 45 years ago when Colin Chapman and Lotus managed to finally master ground effect to win the 1979 World Championship. Today, for the 5th year in a row, we will break out the legendary Lotus 79 around some of the most iconic circuits in America and across the globe, starting here at Homestead and finishing at Auto Club in December. Hello and welcome back to RaceBot TV for coverage of the Espo's Design Miami 200 presented by Sim Experience and round 1 of the Lionheart Retro Series. My name is Arjuna Kankipati and I'm joined by Dylan Coyle to kick off this season's action. TV cameras for today's broadcast are brought to us by RaceBot's own Tyler Maxon, and you can follow along with live timing and scoring over at our partners at Timing 71 to follow along with your favorite team and drivers. Let's dive into our countdown to green presented by HyperX, partners of the Lionheart Racing Series and makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Well, whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit www.hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. Dylan, it's a delight to be back here at Virtual Homestead Miami. We kick off now a run of 18 races once again to Auto Club. Yesterday we saw some amazing competition in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Today, though, it's all about the Lotus 79 and the Lionheart Retro Series presented by Sim Experience.
Yeah, and thank you for joining everyone who is watching this race on multiple broadcast partners. This is going to be a fantastic season, and it's going to be one that we see 3 Triple Crown races, 2 double points races, both Auto Club and Indianapolis, and a multitude of different track types. Homestead Miami Speedway, it's been on the retro calendar for as long as the series has been going pretty much. 5 races. This is the 5th. There have been 4 different winners, and the margin of victory, Arjuna, it is so small. Last year, 0.021 seconds. This is going to be a fun race to start the season off with.
And next time in a couple of weeks, we'll head to Watkins Glen for our first road course of this season. You can see as well, we go to Phillip Island, Silverstone, as well as Long Beach, and a run of 3 different road courses to finish off this season. I think Sage Karen, one of those drivers, will be watching out for on the road courses. Let's take a look then at the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit www.minus273.biz. Don't forget to also use promo code Minus273 LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. And we head back to Homestead for the 7th year of Lionheart Racing Series competition then. A custom fix setup in effect, but everyone is chasing, just like they are in the IndyCar Series, where we have a 3-time back-to-back champion. In this series, Dylan, Ryan Otis, 2-time champion, trying to make it 3, just like Adam Blocker has over on the IndyCars.
I mean, and the interesting thing there with Ryan Otis is that he is the all-time lap leader at Homestead with 83 laps led. Think about it this way. Only 83 times has the lap leader at Homestead led a lap. That is a very small number comparatively to what you'd expect the all-time lap leader to have. So this race is going to have a lot of parity, and I feel like it's going to be a fight for survival, right? It is an oval, it is open wheel, and it is with a beast of a car. So everyone on track today, well, maybe we've got Ryan Otis to worry about most off if I'm another driver, but I'm not just worrying about getting my car around the track 134 times.
And just like Ryan Otis is your two-time champion, so is Raven Motorsports Black. So we'll be watching out in that team's battle as you can see cars rolling around for practice. A couple of final moments for them to get that final preparation underneath them. Let's talk about this event. Dylan, you mentioned the margin of victory just 12 months ago. Just 0.02 of a second. I have a feeling we'll see that again because every time this series has visited this track, we get super close races.
Yeah, and it's the nature of how Homestead Miami is shaped. It's the nature of oval racing because there are long straightaways here. Well, long, again, relatively, we are going to have a bit of a draft fest. We're going to have maybe some aero push, adjust some of the racing, we'll see, but it doesn't keep away from pack racing as you see behind the event details page. This is what we're going to see during the race, and it's going to be quite exciting. Something you got to point out, though, is just the lap records. The race record, 6 miles per hour, or 5 miles per hour, that is, faster than the qualifying record. That's huge, and that is all because of the draft. It plays such a huge role here, and I feel like open wheels, they're always the cars most affected by it.
And like you said, pack racing going to be something we see. This race has seen a lot of cautions over the years. We'll be hoping for slightly fewer than the 6 that they had when they first came here, when they had more than 40 cars on track, 31 registered for the session so far. Let's talk a little bit more about Homestead Miami then, Dylan, because 1.5 miles variable banking throughout turns 1, 2, 3, and 4. And while it looks very flat on this track map here, it is not flat. It is a very difficult circuit, and you can take it any way you want. We're going to see all the different type of lines you can imagine out there on this 1.5 mile track.
Yeah, 100%. And it was extremely flat before, I believe, in 2003. It was revamped to add the progressive banking, and that sort of helped for stock cars on the track. It led to different lines being having different, pros, different cons. If you're trying to ride at the bottom in the corners, you're going to have a tough time because that is where banking is the lowest. The highest point, by the nature of progressive banking, is closest to the wall, but also that can be the most dangerous spot as well because, yes, the wall, the air bubble can burst, and you can get into the wall, and with these open wheel cars having to be nimble, it might spell the end of your day, Arjuna.
It might indeed. So 31 cars on track. A couple of interesting names to keep your eye on. Jason Galvin, who rocketed his way up through the field yesterday in the Lionheart IndyCar Series opener. That was won by your defending series champion Adam Blocker. It was a bit weird, Dylan, to call someone like Richie Hearn, who is a rookie in the IndyCar Series. I had to make sure I got that right, but definitely not a rookie in an IndyCar. He's competing here once again, provisionally 5th up here in practice. Be interesting to see how the former Indy 500 competitor gets on in the Lotus 79.
Yeah, it will be extremely interesting. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're racing for the first time in a series, as long as you know some of the competitors you're racing with. And to go off of that, there's a lot of rookies in this series, Arjuna.
There are indeed. I think when I counted them up, it was about 18 rookies out of the 38 or so registered. So lots of drivers getting their hands on this car for the first time. Sage Karam not for the first time. Some other regulars that we'll be watching out for as well. 50 seconds left then in this practice session before we'll head into qualifying. 5 minutes and 2 laps for drivers to set their fastest lap times. And it's very interesting, Dylan. No in-car adjustments like you have in the IndyCar, but I have a feeling these drivers have been practicing qualifying, trying to figure out what's optimal in these qualifying lap times.
Yeah, and that's a good question, or that's a good question for the drivers to answer as well. and by the end of the race, I'll be interested to hear what everyone has to say, because there's no one line, right? The middle maybe is not to be ironic, but the middle is probably the average part where every driver will go to. But if you want to make a move, maybe go down low on the bottom line for a lap. That might be able to help, but you're going to scrub off so much speed. And speaking about speed, we're about to go for some qualifying laps here, which are probably going to be the slowest laps that we'll see here all day, Arjuna, besides pace laps.
Yeah, very much so. The delta, like mentioned, was 6 miles per hour in terms of lap time. That's about 0.6 of a second as well. So there you can see checkered flag waves in practice, and the cars will roll out for qualifying. Solo car qualifying, which of course means you get uninterrupted access to the track. It does mean we don't necessarily get to follow along with all the different drivers as they head out onto the track. So I tell you what, we'll pick a few of them and feature them during qualifying. Why not, Dylan? Let's jump on board with Nick de Groot. He's a motorsports.com writer, but now in the sim world trying to compete in the Lotus 79 for the first time. Interested to see how it goes for the number 89.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interest. Now, I do wonder right here, Arjuna, if maybe he'll take the first lap or just a bank-it lap, if you will. You just want to get a time in there. But I think lap number 2 and multiple laps, honestly, are going to be where we're going to start to see the lines that these drivers want to take, the optional, preferable line in these single car runs. That's where it will come into play the most. And I must say, I'm curious to see the hands in qualifying on the wheel.
I'm not expecting much movement at all from the hands. You can see here, runs that high line. Ooh, he's going to get close to the wall, almost hits it. I'll compromise this first lap, but as the lap times come in, left-hand side of your screen, Jason Galvin, provisional pole position by 1/10 of a second as Nick de Groot goes provisionally third. And I think David Clymer has just pipped Jason Galvin by 1.5 tenths. Now this lap, though, de Groot goes low, and maybe, like you said, Dylan, just building up speed on lap 1, and now all the way down to the white line, trying to cut the distance throughout 3 and 4.
I mean, if there's one guy who knows how to race this track in single car qualifying, it is somebody like David Clymer, but he's already fell down the score sheet. Oh God, we're going to say climbed up the leaderboard, aren't we, a few times in this race today? Yes, of course. But 14 cars so far have set down some lap times, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen here in the bottom half of qualifying time.
So here is Sage Karen in the all-white car. Very interesting, given that yesterday it was an all-black car. So maybe hoping for a bit of a change in fortunes after having an incident with the Canadian Andrew Kinsella in yesterday's race. Sage Karen provisionally 20th. Let's see what the lap time's going to be for the Dreyer and Reinbold driver. 29.735 last time, and as he comes out of turn number 4, all the way down on that white line, what's the lap time going to be? 28.735. He's going to put himself up in towards 14th position. Not a great qualifying lap time there. And Sage Karam has a lot of work to do then, Dylan.
Well, he was struggling in practice as well. He was not one of the quicker drivers, but you kind of look at practice times and say that's just the luck of the draft, right? The slipstream. He was trying to cut down how much time he spent on track the low line the entire way. Marcone, well, he was a little opposite coming off the high line.
Well, in towards turn 1 for his second lap as we'll jump on the roll bar with Mark Cohn. You can see a bit more steering angle this time around, and one of our sponsors of the series heads in towards turn 3, 24th provisionally, former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year. What's it going to be then for him, Dylan, coming out of turn number 4?
I feel like he just compromised his lap, comes over the line, and... Oh, nope, I don't know anything. He went into third. I thought he got a little bit offline where he did not want to going into turn 4. Thought that would mess up with his lap a little bit once he started to come back down, but he was able to maintain the momentum and the grip levels and put a really nice lap down.
Yeah, and 27 cars having set lap times. We'll wait and see if the remaining 6 or so head out onto track. Still a couple of stragglers setting their final lap times. Paul Jenkins has just jumped himself up into 14th place. Chris Reagan in 27th, still out there on track, but 40 seconds to go then in qualifying, Dylan. watching on board there, I'm slightly concerned about that pack racing action because it looked very, what can we call it? Edge of your seat kind of racing.
It's also going to be the edge of attrition kind of racing, because that's what we're going to see here. There's going to be a lot of drivers who are not comfortable racing in these pack conditions, and there's no way you're going to be able to do it for 133 laps without multiple cautions. It's going to take some competitors out. It's going to take some fast guys out as well, and we'll have to just see once the grid is all finalized who might be the underrated performers of this race.
And 133 lap race, 2 pit stops expected. Pit windows between 45 and 47, and then 90 and 94. We'll watch and see how the cautions affect pit strategy. But now let's go trackside and take a look at the starting grid for the first time this season. So here is your butt kicker starting grid. On pole position, Chris Fowler for Aero X Racing with a 28.652. On his outside, the newcomers Lavoie Motorsport, it's Jean-Francois Matt, just 1/100th of a second separating them. Mark Cohen in third, Mike Rigney in fourth, and Alex Gouillon, Joe Hassert share row 3 of this grid. 7th place is Ariel Alanis in the number 25 car, sharing a row with an independent driver as well, Ken Hacker. Jason Galvin starts back in 9th position. He'll have less work to do than he had last night, with Covey Moore on the edge of the top 10. Danny Roberts in 11th, Ricky Harding in 12th, and series organizer George Anzaldo in 13th. Paul Jenkins on his outside to complete row 7, Chris Lalini in 15th, Trevor Malone in 16th. Nick DeGroot, we rode on board with him during qualifying. He's back in 17th with Chris Reagan on his outside. GSRC commentator DJ Clark lines up in 19th position with Robert Mikes on his outside. Matt Taylor back in 21st with the real-life IndyCar driver Sage Karam all the way back in 22nd. Michael O'Brien lines up then in 23rd with Mike Rasmas next to him. And as we work through the final set of cars here, David Clymer, Chris Staples, Dustin Wardlow, final cars to set qualifying lap times. Not too much of a delta there across the 27 cars. Lano Callisto in 28th. First car not to set a lap time, Ton Dreeling, Paul Slavinek rounding out the top 30. And Adam Young, Richie Hearn, Gary Corley will round out our 33-car grid. 33 cars then, Dylan. One of our smaller starting grids here at Homestead, but nevertheless, still going to be very chaotic racing.
Just a bit. It's going to be quite insane, I think. From the very jump of the race, we're going to see some shuffling, some action happening. I loved looking at the intervals there too, Arjuna. Nothing separated these drivers except for a few boxes of paper.
We have a few onboard cameras that we'll get to take a look at as well, so let's jump on board and walk you through them. Here's the number 9 car, Dustin Wardlow. He's got the Espo's Design onboard camera. Get yourself a racing identity. Visit Espo's Design on Twitter for more information. Aaron Morgan was meant to carry the HyperX onboard camera. He's not in today's race, so let's move back to third place starter Mark Cohen. He's carrying the Graphics Esports camera. World-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit www.graphicsesports.com. Then finally, Mike Rasmas, he's got the butt kicker onboard camera. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more information, visit www.thesimexperience.com. It's a long road to Auto Club Speedway, 18 races, and these drivers have to wrestle one of the toughest cars on the iRacing.com service. Barney the flagman sees the cars coming down to take the green flag. The pace car will pull down onto the safety of pit road. And at the front of your field, we go green flag racing to kick off the Espo's Design Miami 200. So single file at the front of your field, but here comes the pack, and they're already going 3 wide now at the front. Mark Cohen tries to take advantage. Around the outside, he fights with Jean-Francois Mutt. Here comes Mike Rigney as well. 3 wide across the start-finish line, Dylan, to complete lap number 1.
Yeah, Rigney's found some speed in the middle line. This time, he's going to go to the high lane. Don't know if he's going to be able to get the same move done, but the momentum will be in his side, not the draft, however, on the backstretch.
on board with Big Joe Hassett. We run. He's looking to the outside as Mark Cohn tries to find some clean air. Chris Fowler in the lead of the race hugs the white line and holds on very easily. We'll jump back further on because there is 3 wide happening. It's not a myth here at Homestead Miami as the cars work themselves up to racing speed. They go 3 wide at the front of your field as well, though. Joe Hassett goes to the outside, gets past Mike Rigney, and I think we get an indication, Dylan, of just how aggressive cars will be on these race restarts.
Yep, a lot of aggression will happen, and I think that's because they know just how important it will be to not fight in that pack. It's just too dangerous.
Joe Hassett up into third then. Here comes Mark Cohn challenging with Chris Fowler. Side by side across the line they work, and just like they like to do in the NASCAR Cup Series, Mark Cohn rips the high line, tries to roll his momentum through the corner, but unable to make it work. And we'll wait now for the pack to start to follow these guys, because as you fight here, Dylan, you'll cost yourself time, and you'll bring into this battle likes of Joe Hassett and Mike Rigney.
You won't only cost yourself time, you're also costing yourself some fuel. You save a lot of gas by staying in the slipstream. These 2 up front are not doing that at all.
Yeah, but it's absolutely chaotic for 4th position right now. The 82 car, Jean-Francois Matt, in the middle of the sandwich. He looks to the inside of Ken Hacker as 2 wide, 2 deep they work. Oh no, it's not 2 wide, 2 deep. It's about 2 wide, 4 deep. There's 3 wide behind them as well. Covey Moore tries to get up into the top 10 as we'll jump onto this aerial look presented by ATVO. Looks like Lionel Callisto has had a small issue. Reset back onto pit road. We'll spool up the replay machine in just a few moments' time, but for now, working lap 6 out of 133, Dylan. It's been very clean so far.
It has been very clean, but not without a few wiggles. Covey Moore back in turn 3, turn 4. It looked like he got a little bit too much of his 2 left side tires on the apron, shot him right back up.
See if we can pick up what's happened to Lionel Callisto. It might actually be something else, as you can see there. He'll roll out of pit lane 5 laps down. Dylan, I don't think he even took to the green flag.
No, I do not think so at all, and it's a shame because we are already on lap 7 of this race. He's probably down a little bit. Covey Moore, by the way, he's having some struggles coming way up to the wall.
Joe Hassett tries to now get in on this fight for the race lead. They're going to start fighting 3 wide in just a few moments' time. We'll jump back further into the pack as well. Alex Gugnon down on the inside. Behind him, one of his teammates as well. Let's take a look at the left-hand side of your screen. And Dylan, take a look at the movers and shakers here. Yesterday, we didn't see much movement in the top 10, but here you can see much more movement so far. Number 82 car down.
Oh, no!
That's going to be our first caution of the day. Not sure who that is. Chris Fowler from the race lead. And because actually he slid down to the inside, Dylan, we stay under green flag conditions.
Oh, what a shame for him. As we'll see in the replay, he was on the inside of a 3 wide move. And, well, it just seemed like he got a little bit too much contact in the middle here.
Joe Hassett tries to go down the middle. Unfortunately, I don't think Chris Fowler could really do much about that. And Fowler, after starting on pole position, back down onto pit road. One more look at this, and take a look at this one, Dylan. What do you think? It's just a slight contact. 2 don't go into 1. That's always what happens.
I feel like it's what you kind of expect when you're racing here with a bunch of close quarters combat. Maybe Hassett should have tried to keep the wheel a little bit straighter, maybe move up to the right a bit more. Racing incident, but if you had to put blame, maybe Hassett.
Unfortunately for Fowler then, not much that will do. As you can see here, Sage Karen now up into 15th position. So we take a look at some of this fighting further back. Car's going to get checked up there as Sage Karen slides up into the high line. He's lost a position to Chris Lanini in front of him. But you can see here, a couple of cars now, Dylan, starting to work more single file. Not really trying to come down onto that inside. Now all migrated up onto the top.
Yeah, it is a smart move right now. There's no need to fight your way to the front if there's nothing crazy happening around your positioning. If we're talking about craziness, Arjuna, it's up at the front.
Well, they're going 3 wide across the start-finish line here for now. It is crazy up front as well. Jason Galvin has fought his way up to the front as Trevor Malone in the meat of the sandwich, Matt Taylor. And I think that's Robert and Mike's are going to be on his inside and outside respectively. Well, check out, though, at the front of your field. Here comes Jason Galvin in the 42. It was a very impressive drive from him yesterday to rocket his way up through the field. And Dylan, he's doing it once again.
doing it once again, and are you really surprised with that? Jason Galvin, he's a driver you expect to do well here, and it's no different in the 79 car.
Well, he actually won the first ever race that we hosted here in this Lotus 79. It didn't actually happen, though, on pace. Late race caution, and Chris Stouffer was trying to save fuel in what to him was a new car at the time. He blew his engine up and unfortunately handed the lead to Jason Galvin, who did not let it go. Jason Galvin took our very first victory in the Lionheart Retro Series. Across the line they go. Joe Hassert now at the front of your field. Mark Cohen second. Mike Rigney, Jason Galvin scrapping it out for third with Ken Hacker tucked in behind them. Ready to take advantage then, Dylan, if anything happens.
Oh, and it looks like something might happen right there. You see that this track surface is a bit bumpy. It's not smooth at all. You see the cracks in it. That will lead to some very full hands in this race.
Interestingly as well, Han's a bit more active than I expected. Let's ride on board with Hacker, see where he goes. Not much clean air to be found, so he picks the line that Joe Hassert takes. That will be the least dirty air, if you will. And meanwhile, I think Mike Rigney will hold off Jason Galvin for now. If you're curious how the pack is separated, they're not. There's 4.7 seconds separating 31 cars here at the Virtual Homestead Miami. Incredible stuff. 15 laps we've gone, and you can already see 2 wide still further back in your packet. Single file up front. I think George Anzaldo is kind of the cork in the bottle, if you will. Let's take a look from the rearward shot from his car, and you can see the swarm of Lotus 79s, Dylan, ready to pounce.
Oh yeah, and they'll pounce pretty easily as long as they stay in the slipstream. You know, it is like a repeated record, a broken record, if you will. When it comes to saying that, it's just the draft is so powerful here. It's going to end up being the reason for a win or not.
I'm curious what the lap times were in qualifying as compared to our race. 28.651s most recently for your race leaders. They definitely are starting to lose lap time very slightly. The tires haven't started to wear so far. Great camera that we've got this backward shot of from the rear wing as Sage Karam has now trying to get past Covey more. Up front though, let's jump on board with our Graphics Esports camera and former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year. Mark Cohen still stuck on that outside line. Jason Galvin works down to his inside now. And Mark Cohen stuck on that outside line, ripping that momentum. But if this is the story of the race, Dylan, thinking about that last run to the checkered flag, the number of close finishes that we've had, you want to be that car down on the inside, because what we're seeing every time is that car is the one that's going to lead across the line.
Well, you remember Dale Earnhardt Jr. saying during a NASCAR broadcast, slide job. It's sort of true here, not to the same visual extent, but you do lose, not lose grip, but you do use a ton of the rubber when you do try to make a pass down low. But if you can get it done, then you're most likely in a better spot than if you went up high.
I think Mike Rigney might finally lose out to Jason Galvin. Not yet. I thought that slide job was about to be thrown. Galvin might have to now jump into line. Ricky Harden has to check up. Galvin will dive back down to the inside. He's committed to trying to make something happen. As further back as well, they're going very, very hard in the mid-pack, as you can see there. 3 wide, that turquoise machine, the 34 of Trevor Malone involved. He's down on the inside as Chris Lanini works around the outside. Nick DeGroot, by the way, after qualifying in 17th, he's down in towards, still in 17th position. I thought he had dropped slightly further down. But let's jump on board here, Dylan, and see what he's doing. You talk about the hands. What are you seeing from these drivers right now?
So let's talk about what we're seeing in this shot specifically. You can be fairly smooth when you even are in the turbulent air. The problem becomes when you start to move out of the slipstream when you are in, watch this. So he gets a little bit out of it, gets some aero tightness, because all of a sudden everything that was helping him down the straightaways, well, it's working against him with that turbulent air. We see again, Arjuna, I know that for the rest of this race, we're going to see some more intensity in the way these drivers, well, handle their cars.
It's really intense up and down through the field to try and jump around throughout the battles, because slightly getting stuck, I would say. Unable to make things work on the inside now. The outside builds momentum, and until we get green flag stops in about 25 laps or so, we might have a bit of the stalemate as cars work their favored line. It's not like what we saw in the Indy cars yesterday, where you have in-car tools, Dylan. You have the ARBs and the weight jacker. Don't really have that flexibility to adjust things over the course of a stint here.
Yeah, it comes down to just your ability to not only save tires, save fuel, but to stay a clean car. You don't want to waste any time, especially in green flag stops, and that comes with some damage repair. And I must note, Arjuna, you just said green flag stops in 20 laps. How could you say that when you know your record?
Oh, God.
Jinxing things. Yeah.
I didn't think about that. It is being stellar at action up and down through the field. Let's check out the battle on the edge of the top 20 then. As you can see, a couple of cars still working down to the inside line. You are right, Dylan. I do have a rather dreadful record of the commentator's curse. Most recently, I was saying that it was such a good green flag run, and the caution came out as I was saying that.
Oh, no! We had someone go up into the wall in the mid-pack. Almost took away everything. Almost.
Oh, and they almost touched as well right there. That was Chris Lanini and Paul Jenkins almost wheel to wheel. I almost said door to door. Forgot that we're in the open wheel cars. Unfortunately there, everyone able to stay safe. Let's jump back to the front of your field then, Dylan, and check out this action. Mike Rigney still stuck up behind Mark Cohn. And once again, like I was saying, not really able to do much here. So Jason Galvin is going to start getting shuffled back at this point in time. Ricky Hardin is tucked in right behind Rigney.
Is it a matter of not being able to or not wanting to? It's not like they're in a bad spot if you're in the top 5, top 8 right now, top 10. You're just kind of riding it out, seeing where this goes. You don't want to put yourself in a dangerous spot. You can use up your equipment by trying to go to the front. And the guy who's spending the most fuel is Hassert right now.
Yeah, that's true. He started further back, but now burns that fuel. Series organizer George Anzaldo up through the field. And in the black and blue machine, he now gets past Ken Hacker. Danny Roberts will try and take advantage as well. You can see Anzaldo is really working his way up. He was stuck in the edge of the top 10. I called him a little bit of the cork in the bottle, and he's released a lot of that pressure. And guess who's taking advantage? Sage Karam up into 9th position, and we jump on board with the number 2 car, who had a very busy day yesterday, winning in the VCO Pro Sim Series, and then having a much more disappointing day in the season opener of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Stuck in the dirty air, though, into the top 10, and that's what's more important. Gaining the track position, Dylan. As you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, he's up 13 positions.
And he's done that pretty quietly, as well as he makes a daring move down the inside, carries a ton of speed, is going to have to get out of the throttle a little bit because he would have slid up into, I believe that's the 25, 28 car of Roberts. That could have been disastrous for everybody. But look at Roberts trying to make a move as well. You know, Sage Karam, he's in a good spot, but don't push it too much.
Well, Roberts tried to get to the inside of Anzaldo. Karam will take advantage. We saw this on a number of occasions yesterday, and the same situation plays out. Galvin, the other car down to the inside. Roberts will take advantage here. Look at the momentum he was able to roll. And they enter in towards turn 3. He gets the draft from in front. Mark Cohn blocks off the run that they had. Mike Rigney, by the way, is just past Joe Hassett for this race lead. So, talked about Hassett now having burned all of that fuel, Dylan. He's in the position where he can just sit back, relax, and maybe ride around just like Rigney was doing slightly earlier.
Well, it depends. Again, does he want to do that? Because what we have seen from Hassert is he wants to be up front. And in a 102, 103 laps time, what's going to be the best position to be in on the last lap, first or second?
Well, there were some teams that were saying that they were thinking about riding around at the back, and, you know, seeing some of this, I don't blame them as well. The flagman's got a great view of all of these cars streaking across the start-finish line. And just like yesterday, we saw some incredible stuff. We're seeing the same here today. Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX. Great to have it on RaceSpot TV and ESTV for the first time this year. All 60 events will be uninterrupted. And you can also catch them on rebroadcast after the fact on ESTV. Anzaldo and Karam, they're doing battle for now. Slightly further up, you can see the Coanda SimSport driver looks down to the inside. And he's going to try and get past the man that's got him a brand new sponsorship deal. He'll do the slide job. And now Anzaldo will tuck back down to the inside line, and some great action then. Karam now up into 7th position, and like you say, that track position so important. He's back down on the inside. Jason Galvin, interestingly, has had to migrate back up to the high line, Dylan, because guess who? Danny Roberts, across the start-finish line, he challenges for 4th position.
Yeah, Danny Roberts started the race in 11th, so a nice little crawl up for him. This battle for 3rd, all with drivers, wheel to wheel. Are we going to see 3 wide? Ooh, a little bit of a cutoff, trying to block the middle, then the lower lane as they head into turn 3, Arjuna.
Karam will take advantage on the inside once again. He's up now into the top 5 for the first time today. That's what he needed after a very disappointing qualifying. Here comes then Ricky Harding. Unfortunately gave that position up to Danny Roberts.
Oh, way too close for comfort.
And I do believe Danny Roberts, our highest running rookie so far today. We saw Jason Brophy take a podium yesterday in his first appearance in the Lionheart Racing Series. What can Danny Roberts do then? 6th position so far. Still some great side-by-side action. George Anzaldo down into 9th though at this point in time. Ken Hacker has gone past in front of him. Roberts and Hardin swapping as well as Joe Hassett and Mike Rigney side-by-side. Here comes Mark Cohen to take advantage of the situation though, and we jump on board with our Graphics Esports onboard camera once again then, Dylan. And let's see what Cohen does once again. We saw him be very tentative, I feel, early in the run. And as we ride through 3 and 4, very similar.
He started 3rd, he's in 3rd. Mark Cohen is sitting in a very nice spot. You see, it's a little bit tapered off to the left with the wheel. It is a turning left kind of race. It's an oval, so he's going to have the wheel a little bit situated to the right as they go down this backstretch, this front stretch back here. The speeds, by the way, 184 miles per hour, not in when you're going side by side. That's the lowest that they've been in all race. They're going fast.
They're going mad fast as they fight side by side for the race lead. They fight side by side for 4th as well. Jason Galvin, Sage Karam continue to do battle. But we're going to turn attention slightly further back once again because it's always nice to focus in on some of these battles very early on in the season. Here's Paul Jenkins and Alex Guyon doing battle for 21st and 22nd respectively. And you can see the swarm of angry cars. We've only had that 1 retirement so far, Dylan. And in a race that's had 6 cautions in its most throughout the 5 years of the Lionheart Retro Series, very impressive start to get 39 laps so far with only 1 car down on pit road.
I was going to say the same thing. It's really impressive how all of these drivers have managed to so far stay as clean as they have been. It's not even just single file sitting in a line racing. These guys are going side by side at 190 miles per hour up to 200 through the straightaways. And you know what? That's all the better for the show we're currently having right now.
Look at that camera shot and the speed at which the cars are just flying on by. I'm going to be honest, Dylan, I know ground effect is something that is more common in IndyCar, especially with this Dallara IR18 body kit, but growing up in primarily a household where we watch Formula One racing, where ground effects, after the late 80s got banned because it was thought to be too dangerous. It produced cars that were too fast. This Lotus 79 was the first car to really perfect the art of being able to maximize that effect and use it the most. And it's incredible. It's not a car designed for oval racing, but it works so well.
And it also looks good while doing it. It's interesting you saying that the reason for ground effect being banned, because it was the fear that it was too fast for the current safety standards at the time. It reminds me of the argument about Group B and rallying. It wasn't that it was too fast, it was that these cars were too fast for the safety at the time, because the cars in rally racing now are faster than they've ever been.
And the aero on some of those modern rally cars is absolutely unbelievable. So Sage Karam, he's dropped off slightly. Here comes Jason Galvin. He rips the outside. Is he going to get up into that 3rd and final podium position? Yes, he is. And Mark Cohen is very content to be riding around in that 3rd spot. Now defends as Sage Karam looks to his outside as well. Things can swing so quickly here, Dylan. And the momentum is really something that drivers have to watch out for.
Speaking about what to watch out for, look at the lap. It is around the time we're going to start seeing drivers come into the pits on that single fuel run. Like you said, 45, 47 laps, that's around what they can do. I wonder if they can push it a little bit more, because have they been saving enough fuel by courtesy of the slipstream?
I do wonder, we saw stints get extended by almost 5 laps, I do believe, in yesterday's race. As you can see, this great aerial look brought to us by ATVO Graphical Partners at RaceBot TV. Mark Cohn down into 5th now. He's going to get swarmed as Danny Roberts down to the inside, as Ken Hacker, Ricky Harden behind him as well. Covey Moore and George Anzaldo are trying to get in on the fun. Top 10 cars, let's just emphasize this, Dylan, separated by 7/10 of a second. The top 20, they're separated by 2 seconds. Top 30, they're separated by 3.8 seconds.
And the crazy thing is, that 0.7 seconds, while, again, 0.7 seconds if the car in front was stopped, it's a long distance just because of the speeds these cars are traveling at.
And as they come out of turn 4, upwards of 300 kph, because I'm a metric person, Dylan's an imperial person.
Unfortunate.
But 3 wide they go. Mark Cohn is going to lose out then in the middle. Almost contact with, that's Ken Hacker on his outside. Oh, and that's the number 7 car getting very, very squirrely. Oh, and that's going to be a caution. The big one's about to happen. And after some incredible racing action to start this one off, we've had a huge crash at the virtual Homestead Miami. Covey Moore, Ken Hacker, Michael O'Brien, all involved in this one. And we'll spool it back and take a look at the RaceBot TV replay.
I'm not going to pin this one on you, Arjuna. I think this was just a matter of when you start to have cars going into the pits, slowing down. Joe Hassert said he was coming in right away, and such a shame for the 45 right there. Nothing you can do. Cars flipping over. I'll give that a 10 out of 10 for sticking the landing, but watch this view slowing down and just goes through the grass. Everything is fine. You got to be counting your lucky stars right there if you are Richard Hearn.
Well, that's that experience in the real world. Covey Moore with the sickening impact over and over again. It continues. Hopefully that driver is not in VR because he finally comes to a rest. And I really do hope he's not in VR because that would be rather sickening, Dylan.
What's sickening is looking at that car that is still moving after that. What a poor look for the car. It's sad. It's sad, but at least he's moving still.
Well, the good news is pit road is now going to be very busy as we were just about to come in for green flag pit stops. Who's going to win this race off of pit road? Mike Rigney has not come down. He'll try and get some points for leading a lap across the line. And I think, incredibly, it is Sage Karam who will jump his way up into second.
Yep. It makes sense, right? He's been storming his way through the field. And you know what? I do wonder if it was just strictly on the speed of the pit stop, speed getting out and stopping, that put him over the top. Because, I mean, I can't see any tires necessarily being a big issue. Do you see tire stops at all in this pit cycle? Because they weren't really courting in a way.
Yeah, you know what? The pit stop's all about between 8 to 9 seconds. Very, very short. Mike Rigney does come down onto pit road after leading that lap, so he'll drop to the tail end of the field. Sage Karam, 9.1 seconds stationary. Ricky Harding, who's up into second. 8.3 seconds stationary, 0.9 of a second slower. I wonder here, Dylan, if it was just the way that cars were able to get through that caution, really enabled them to get a bit of a buffer heading into pit road. Maybe Karam just a bit faster on that access road that you have to take through turn 3. He spent more time on pit road. He's come out in the lead of this race.
And you know what? Sometimes that's that's all you need. Some luck and some good workmanship from your team. And I'm sure that if he could, he would be thanking the rest of the drivers or rest of the crew members. However, it is unfortunate right now to see some drivers who we thought would have a good shot at winning this race, unfortunately fall all the way to the back or have damage that will prevent them from going anywhere forward as these caution laps play out.
And Lionel Kalisto, who is 4 laps down, will get one of his laps back after he gets waved around, but 44 laps into his stint. He does owe us a pit stop, so he's going to go a lap down very quickly on as well. So, unfortunate start for Callisto, another driver who I was very impressed with yesterday, rocketing his way up through the field. Might have been our biggest mover and shaker as well. Left-hand side of the screen then, let's take a look at those movers and shakers, Dylan. As you can see here, Sage Karam up 21 positions. He is our big mover. You can see there as well, the likes of Hardin, the likes of De Groot, the likes of Taylor all up 10 positions. Then you have drivers like the number 82 car, Jean-Francois Matt, who had that incredible qualifying performance. He's down, unfortunately, 10 positions.
Yeah, that is quite unfortunate. I will say, though, this race is so long, you're going to have a lot of variation in where you're going to be riding throughout the day, throughout the night. And it's okay to be in a not so kind to you spot at this point of the race.
And I think, especially as we go back to green flag racing here, we'll think about the fact that we got so many laps without any major issue. There was some bumping and banging. I think maybe drivers will now settle into this mid portion of the race, focus in on getting to the green checkered flag rather, and getting the best track position they can get. First caution of the day here at the Espo's Design Miami 200. Sage Karam back at the front of your field, and he takes us back to green flag racing as we go single file at the front. It is Jean-Francois Matt, the first car that has to defend. As you see, the mid-pack starts to go too wide. Some great camera angles brought to us by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxon as 3 wide they go. Chris Reagan tries to take advantage. And I said earlier on, Dylan, that cars want to use this restart to make as many positions as they can. And great job there to take advantage.
Yeah, at the restart, Jean-Francois Matt actually had a slow jump and was passed on the outside by a few drivers. So this is why he's in such a bad position right now, losing spots at the get-go.
Up and down through the field, some great action. Nick De Groot up into 9th position now. You can see rolling around on the outside with Mike Razmas down on his inside. So a couple of cars up considerable positions up into the top 10. Now work this track position and try and take advantage. Front of your field though, Sage Karam, Ricky Hardin, Jason Galvin, Mark Cohen and Danny Roberts, your top 5. Joe Hassett has dropped down to 6 with some potential minor damage on his car. And let's jump on board with Big Joe and see how that car is handling. You can already see he has dropped off the pace very slightly here, Dylan. 4/10 of a second back. I wonder if, indeed, it is some damage on some of these cars playing some effects.
I think it would. Most likely, it's going to hurt their times by a few miles per hour, a few kilometers per hour in the turns. I want to see the long-lasting effects, though, if this will really keep them out of any kind of action in fighting for race spots. And look at this battle for first. A lead change, perhaps. Harding
down on the end, inside with the fresher tires, potentially. We're still unsure how this race is developing at this point in time. Inside was very strong early on our first start of the race. But at this point in time, Sage Karam ripping that outside line, and Jason Galvin tucks into his draft to try and find some clean air as we jump on board with the number 42. Ricky Hardin, Sage Karam side by side as we exit turn 2. And there's some crazy 3-wide action further back as well. But we'll stick up here and see how these cars work early in the run. They've cleared the cars behind them by almost 1 second at this point in time, Dylan.
Wouldn't it be fantastic for somebody like Ricky Hardin to get win number 2 in his career? This is his 20th race. He's racing against guys like Sage Karam, who have 13 wins in 30 races.
Sage Karam, the all-time win leader as well in this competition, despite not having won a championship just yet. He does the over-under. He's going to get that race lead back, but we'll turn our attention then back in the pack once again. Lionel Callisto has come down onto pit road, serving that pit stop that he owed us. You can see here, edge of the top 10, single file. Further back, though, you can see Trevor Malone tucked up behind Paul Slavonic. Chris Reagan in front of them as well. Slavonic will look down to the inside then, in what is a very tasteful car, I must say, Dylan. You know I like to look at some cool car liveries from time to time. And there really are some interesting designs on this Lotus 79 today.
Yeah, and the one thing you could say is there's a lot of vibrancy out there. Look at this. There's cyan blue, you got purple. We just hope they don't leave any of their marks on the outside wall.
That's more, you can see the amount of marks on that wall as well. Jason Galvin, by the way, down on the inside now. Ricky Hardin will fight for third as Mark Cohn tries to take advantage. Let's jump on board with our Graphics Esports onboard camera. It's always great when drivers fighting at the front of the field have these onboard looks still in, because it gives us that incentive to jump on board and see just how these cars are handling.
Well, Graphics Esports is also very happy about that as well. But yeah, these cars are handling great. And by great, I mean they're a handful, but it's great for us to watch right now. Smooth as you can possibly be through the turns, but I still feel like there's going to be some incidents where these drivers are going to deal with more of a handful based off the aero differences.
I think we will see that indeed. They are starting to get closed down, by the way, by the likes of Matt Taylor and Danny Roberts as well. Just looking at the timing screen, by the way, Dylan, it does appear as though on this restart, cars are getting slightly more separated. We have about 1.8 seconds separating your top 10, 4.5 seconds separating the top 20 this time around, so maybe a poor restart there from some cars, building up that momentum, and it's allowing these cars at the front to slowly build this lead up.
If you recall, I was saying that the slowest some of the drivers were going around corners was 184 miles per hour. Now it's like 178, so I think that tires are playing a huge part here. It's hard to get side by side and still have a good run to the guy in front of you, so I think you can bet on it that we're going to see tires taken at the next pit stop, which should be the last.
I'm just wondering, why not try something different, take tires in this pit stop and, do it slightly earlier and risk having...
Would have helped.
Yeah, and have that advantage now, exactly. You never know how things are going to go, but back in the pack, we'll once again turn our attention to the number 17, or rather position 17, Ariel Alanis, one of our many rookies in this series. He's fighting it out with Alex Gouillon, another rookie to the series. We've mentioned at the start, 18 rookies taking this green flag today, Dylan. It's incredible and really exciting that we'll have a really exciting fight over our rookie championship.
And also, with that number being so high, it's over half of the field. That's great. These are guys that are coming into this series. Either they're using it as a stepping ladder for the next part of this entire Lionheart trio, I guess you could say, the trilogy of series, or they're just in here because they love this car. They love the style of racing that it can bring, as we see from Barney's view up here. Wouldn't you love to be there? Like, right there. Just, hey, race spot commentators. We're going on the flag stand. It's our turn.
Well, if you're someone called Aaron Likings, you don't need permission if you're at the Brickyard. You just go up there because you're the IndyCar official flagman. So we did have an interesting discussion about who would be the superior flagman, but I think the ultimate sign of superiority is the fact that Mike Joy now references Barney the flagman on every single NASCAR broadcast on TV. So I think the most famous flagman associated with iRacing will be Barney. But meanwhile, at the front of your field, Jason Galvin on the inside into the race lead, fighting it out with Sage Karam. Matt Taylor has managed to work his way up through the field very impressively in the number 79 car, Dylan. Once more on the left-hand side of your screen, let's take a look at the movers and shakers. It's not just the like of Karam who are up 20 position. Taylor, he's up 17.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing. Look at Klavenik, up 17 from 30th place to 13th. I mean, these are big movers. Obviously, Sage Karam is up high. He can't get anything more, though, than 21 spots because that would put him in first. Some really good racing as we see there's a car going into the pits. I believe that is a lapped car ahead.
I think that is Adam Young, who rolls around with damage, and indeed it is as he comes down onto pit lane right in front of Slavonic, though. 3 wide across the start-finish line. Nick DeGroot, Matt Rasmus, and David Clymer all getting involved. And once again, incredible stuff. I was slightly concerned, Dylan, when I saw the previous race records where you're talking about a minimum of 4 cautions in just 133 laps, but we're halfway through this race, and
this is great.
The respect is being just unbelievable. You can see Joe Hassard up on that high line now, fighting it out with David Clymer. Oh. They almost make contact, but they make it work.
Oh, they did make contact right there. David Clymer has had a few things to say on the radio over the the course of the last few laps. Mostly, are you kidding me? Because he feels maybe a little bit hard done with some of the racing. Would not be surprised if he gives very little room on this attempt at a move on Hasser.
And I just wonder if in these cars, they're so raw, so brutal, you can get heated, and then you can start making poor decisions, Dylan. I can reflect on someone who's, especially in endurance races, been a bit of a hothead in traffic, and you can see here, he's fighting with Joe, and now going to lose time. And look at those cars from behind. Here comes De Groot. Here comes Razmas.
Yeah, they're hungry, man. There is no way this is going to end up working out for him unless he is able to make a move on Hasser. It's just, you got to get your head back into the game, continuing with High School Musical references I've accidentally made in this broadcast. But he's doing a very fine job at not getting overly aggressive, but he does need to tone it down a little bit.
While they're all in this together, I can get in on that fun as well. It was very obvious, and it was right there. Sage Karam, Jason Galvin, they're still side by side, but now here comes the swarm. Matt Taylor is now getting attacked by Chris Lanini around the outside. He's up into 4th. Mark Cohen, he's down into 6th. Your former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year has to defend as a very angry David Clymer looks to his inside. And as we talked about this pack maybe separating, we now have a breakaway. 15 cars, they're separated by 1.7 seconds. And then you have the chasing pack, the peloton as you would call it in cycling, has now fallen about 4 seconds off the race leader. And you can see here, Dylan, they're about 10 or 15 kilometers an hour slower than the race leaders on average now.
I love when there's words for something that I didn't know existed, and the peloton, is that what you said? I love that. I didn't realize that was a cycling term. We should use that more often in motorsports because it's a perfect word, a representation for what we're currently seeing. Look at that pack. Just 2 large buzzing bees worth of packs that, I mean, they look angry, and, well, some drivers, they really are angry.
Dylan, I just have to interject here. Do you really, have you never heard of peloton?
No, I have
Even
not.
The company?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we'll talk after this race, educate you
fair.
from under this rock you've been living in. But I tell you what, we're going to take a quick commercial break here live on RaceSpot TV. Don't go anywhere. We'll stay with uninterrupted coverage, but we'll step aside for a few messages from our partners. Hello and welcome back to RaceSpot TV and continued coverage of the opening round of the Lionheart Retro Series, the Espo's designed Miami 200, presented by Sim Experience. Delighted you can join us here live on RaceSpot TV and on ESTV as well. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined by Dylan Cole for today's broadcast, and it's been an incredible start to the race. Just a single caution so far, but the action continues. Too wide throughout the pack as Dylan. We've got 16 cars mixing it up for the race win here.
16 cars, and I'll tell you what, it feels like all of the cars in this race have just shown exactly what they have from the very beginning of it. It's not even a matter of getting settled in this race. It's a matter of they feel like it's a sprint when, well, it might be one with the lack of yellows we've had in this race. Oh, boy. Right away, Arjuna, we have some action there.
Absolutely crazy. And the margin of victory last year, just 2/100ths of a second. And I think that's why Sage Karam just gave the block to David Clymer as he looked to try and make it 3 wide across the start-finish line. About 53 laps to go still here. 1 pit stop left on our agenda. And of course, Dylan, we haven't seen pit stops just yet. Green flag pit stops, rather. That, of course, is a very interesting proposition. And as these guys continue to scrap it out on track, I'm still going to think about this possibility of green flag stops. Because if we get it, it will be a complete game changer.
It'll be a complete game changer, but I do think, oh my goodness, Sage Karam just said, David, it ain't going to work. 53 to go, bud. But anyway, back on the pit strategy, I think it's going to squash back together depending on when they all come in down this cycle. You're looking at maybe lap 102, 105, something around there.
Oh, and you know what? There's contact.
They're spinning.
And Clymer's going to cause another big wreck. 7 cars going to get involved. And unfortunately, Sage Karam is proved right. Unfortunately as well, Paul Slavonic, who is having an impressive opening race of this series, will drop as well. Big contact made, and I think Sage Karam was a little bit right there. So we'll spool this one back and take one more look at it, Dylan. It was inevitable, and you, I think, were starting to get very, very worried.
Yep. I'm listening over the radio right now. Jason Galvin is hysterically laughing because David said there was a gap and I went for it. Not sure there was a gap at all right there. I mean, Sage Karam said, don't do it. And, I mean, that wreck just brought out half the field. I mean, look at that. There's no gap there. You could have gone out of it right there. It goes back in the throttle. And you've got to say, not to be too harsh, but we call a spade a spade. This wreck is on him and his unwillingness to, quiet it down with 50 to go.
And let's take a few onboard looks here. Let's first jump on board with Big Joe Hassert because he almost managed to get through the chaos, but unfortunately for him, as you'll see here, Dylan, up into the outside wall, nowhere really to go. And you can just see, it was contact as well that forced him up into the wall. Slavonic is the one that's going end over end. Mark Cohn is involved in this one as well. We'll take one final look at it, Dylan, from the aerial look. And we'll just see how many cars got mixed up here.
It looked like it was just all the cars flipping around. I mean, I don't know if you believe in this, but all the numbers might be a little bit of rolling dice right there. Who do you think has the best landing? Best style? Who
lands on their 4 wheels? Doesn't look like any of them have just yet. You can see, cars are scampering, still trying to get out of the way.
Both of them.
You can see. Exactly. I'm just seeing all of these cars coming on through, but we'll jump back to live pictures then, because cars have come down onto pit road.
A lot of damaged cars, mainly, are going to be in pit road.
That's what I was going to say. There's going to be some very lengthy delays here for some of these cars. Unfortunately, for someone like Paul Slavonic, riding Shotguns Motorsports number 78, not only do I like him, Dylan, because he's wrote a book about motorsports, I like him because he got my favorite number as well. A real shame because, like you said, he was up in the top 10 and really doing well.
It's a shame I didn't pick 78. Then I'm sure I would have been your favorite driver in the Real Sim Racing series. But nonetheless, it's a shame that he, as well as honestly, all the cars have been got into that situation, and it's one that everyone saw coming. That's the thing that I think would be most frustrating for the field in general. Is it was so obvious the aggression was not going to work out at this point. There was no reason to have that aggression. It happened.
And the question now is, with the fuel window projected to be 90 to 94 laps, can cars make it to the end from here? Working lap 85 out of 133 in our season opener of the Lionheart Retro Series. And I have a feeling if some cars choose to be brave here, Dylan, and commit to a fuel save very early on, they'll put themselves in a prime position to try and get to the end of this race out the front.
I've got to say right there, Arjuna, I don't think anyone can make it, even if they do go for a ton of fuel saving. I mean, they're going to have, let's think, I'm trying to do the math in my head, around 55, right? Is that right? Am I doing math right?
I think it's less than 50 now, so it should be about 48.
You know what? In that case, I don't know why my math wasn't great.
Well, no, it is very close. And the interesting thing here is you see 3 cars on the left-hand side of your screen. Alex Gouillon, as well as his teammate Jean-Francois Matt and Chris Staples. They've all stayed out there. They haven't come down pit road. The lights are off on the safety car. We're going back to green flag racing. These guys are going to have to come down onto pit road in about 4 laps' time.
I'm not sure either. I don't know why they haven't come down into the pits, because they're going to lose a ton of time, especially if it goes green for the rest of the way, and these drivers do make it on fuel. But I don't think that's the end of the crashing here.
Don't you put your commentator's curse down on this now.
What, now there won't be crashing? I think I'm the one who's a little more favorable by some of these drivers with that anti-jinx.
That's true. Ooh, Mike Rigney has gotten onto the grass, and fortunate there, he'll lose a couple of positions. We'll jump back to live pictures very quickly because the cars are forming up, single file throughout the field. And out of the 33 cars that took to the green flag, it looks like, unbelievably, after such an incredibly clean start to this race, just 21 cars out there and circulating. It will be a very lonely track out there, but the pack will swarm once again as Barney flies that green flag for the 3rd time today, and we go racing here once again. The Espo's Design Miami 200 presented by Sim Experience. We'll wait for the queue to start forming up once again, and I'm very curious at this point now, Dylan, what these cars that owe us a pit stop are going to do.
I still am completely... I'm not understanding the decision not to go down, to be honest with you. But we will see in a few laps' time. I mean, Jean-Francois Matt, he's not even on... if he wants to get fresh tires, he's not on that either. So he's going to get eaten up and put possibly a lap down. Well, not possibly. He will go a lap down in a few laps when he has to go into the pits.
Yeah, it is a very interesting call, but maybe 3 cars know a bit more than we do. I always say there's a reason we're up here in the booth, Dylan, and we're not out there on track.
Yeah, there's a big reason for that. It's hard enough to calculate on air your fuel strategies if you don't have somebody, a crew chief, helping you out with that. How about when you're racing around this track at 190 miles per hour in average lap time?
It is very different indeed. We still wait for Alex Gouillon to come onto pit road out front. There have been a couple of cars that have come down onto the lane, the likes of Mike Rigney and Ariel Alanis onto pit road. Alanis, who was having a fairly impressive debut in the series. Disappointing end then, as 17 cars. That was the damage from those 2 big incidents that we had. Dylan, 17 cars on the lead lap, now separated by 5 seconds.
By 5 seconds? Doesn't it sound way too large for what we've been used to in this race? I mean, God, 3 seconds maybe at the beginning was the high point here, but the huge packs, they've turned into medium-sized packs, and that doesn't mean the racing's worse. It just means there's more positions in higher spots that are looking very savory to the cars, the drivers up front.
Look at Trevor Malone. I'm not sure where he started, but mired around the edge of the top 20 for most of the race, up into 5th, and that's what big wrecks do. They let cars like these work their way to the front by staying clean. Gouillon still leads then as we wait for him to come down onto pit road. Ricky Harden and Mike Razmas scrapping hard.
Something to note with Trevor Malone, by the way, he's never won a race. This is his 18th race. He's in a position to do so. Expect him to be a bit more aggressive than the typical driver.
And he's got Jason Galvin, previous race winner at this track, on his outside. And that 34 car is looking very quick at this point in time. For the first time, actually, Sage Karam tries to apply some pressure to the race leader. 45 laps into his stint so far. should be coming down then onto the lane, and a maximum I would have to think of 5 laps. I am very, very just perplexed by this strategy, to be honest, Dylan.
And it's not even just the fact that it was one driver. It was multiple drivers on that strategy. If it was one driver, you could maybe chalk it up to maybe they messed up. They didn't check the fuel, add fuel option. I have no idea. No idea why they did that. Why they didn't come down at all. I mean, that makes no sense.
And so cars that have unfortunately had to retire from this race include Mike Rigney, David Clymer, Mark Cohen, Joe Hassert, Matt Taylor. Oh, the list goes on and on here. Adam Young, Dustin Wardlow, Michael O'Brien, Ken Hacker, Covey Moore, and Chris Fowler. Our pole position sitter, unfortunately, the first car taken out of this race. Guyon leads, but now Malone down to the inside. And you just mentioned that he hasn't won a race yet. And he's, like you said, very aggressive. And I think for the first time, Dylan, very confident out on track compared to when we saw him earlier in this race. Looked a bit more tentative in that midfield, much more assertive than here at the front.
Yeah, and you know what? When you are at the front, you kind of get, you have a few more guts, I think you can say, because you've made your way all the way up front to the front of this pack, and you control the pace of some instances. If you want to have the cars behind you back up a bit, well, you can run some maybe not so tire-friendly lines, but it'll keep everyone a little bit slower in the back. You kind of have the choice of what you want to do, but not for long. This draft, well, it's kind of holding, actually. Malone is holding Sage Karam from being able to make a run there.
I am wondering at what point does Guyon come down onto pit road. 49 laps on his stint. And of course that cautions would have extended it. 2 wide, 3 deep as they enter turn 3. Crazy, crazy stuff. And Malone challenges the race leader. First time Guyon has been challenged on this run. Sage Cameron was very content to run around behind him. Trevor Malone chasing his first ever Lionheart Retro Series victory. Down to the inside with Paul Jenkins behind him as well. Left-hand side of your screen, once again, you can follow along with the movers and shakers. As a result, Dylan, of some of these big incidents, the top 10 filled with some very big numbers now.
Top 10 is filled with some big numbers, and all of these drivers are really, you should expect them to be up here. I mean, we've seen Harden make some big moves. We know about Galvin. We know about Jenkins, who's ran a very nice race right now, and obviously Karam, I mean, he's obviously probably the most legendary driver in the Retro Series over the past few seasons. But Malone up into first, 15 spots gained. Oh, and look at that.
And Malone is coming down onto pit road as well. So Malone, who knows one more stop might be needed, has decided that this is his strategy.
Caution!
Wow.
Caution is out. Wow.
And Guyon decides and realized the pit entry was closed just in time. Not sure who that car that was involved in the caution was, Dylan. I have a feeling it might be Jason Galvin, unfortunately. He's very slow on the start-finish line, and indeed, you can see significant damage to one of our strongest contenders today.
Oh, man, and it was completely unrelated to what happened with cars coming down to the pits. It's a 2-car incident, which we will see on the replay. He went for quite a ride fighting for a top position here.
Let's take a look at this aerial replay brought to us by ATVO, the graphical partners at RaceBot TV. Shout out to Kevin Niatola, Simon Grossman, and Nick Thisson for all of their hard work over the last few months, bringing us a brand new RaceBot graphics package. You see those cars diving down onto the lane. Paul Jenkins, Sage Karam scrapping it out now for the race lead. Oh, and that's a very tough one to call. Another sickening impact, but fortunately this time, Dylan, a single car incident.
Yeah, and I would put that as more of a pure racing incident. You have two drivers, one who's trying to cut down the amount of the distance between them side by side. One's going right up high, one's coming down low, and they make contact. Unfortunately, in this instance, there was a catastrophe for the 42 machine, but at least it just was a catastrophe for one car and not multiple.
Yeah, because that would have taken our dwindling pack of Lotus 79 cars from 16 down to a much smaller number as well. So Galvin, after a, like I said, very impressive run in yesterday's race, will unfortunately leave Homestead with only one good finish rather than two, but as we head into the final 30 laps or so, is now an all-out sprint to the end. And the cars that made it down onto pit road, the likes of Trevor Malone, have taken advantage. But as a result of this caution, Dylan, it was close on fuel before. The answer now is these cars are good to the end.
These cars are absolutely good to the end, and you know what that means? Full out, full throttle racing. There's nothing to worry about when it comes to conservation. They're just going to try and go for it right now. And if you are a car on the lead lap, the 16 cars that are, you know what? You're all in a very nice situation right now where if you did want to go into the pits, you wouldn't really lose too many spots compared to if we were talking about the first yellow of the race all the way back on, what was it, lap 45? I mean, the cautions have all come out right when drivers are going into the pits.
Hey, that's a good point as well, you know. And just a reminder as well, since the lights are still on the pace car, you can follow us for more esports action, not just RaceSpot TV, where you're watching this race live, but ESTV as well, where we will be rebroadcasting all 60 events in the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX. To keep up to date with all three competitions, you can follow the Lionheart Series on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow us at RaceSpot TV across all of those channels and our live streaming platforms as well. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube already, you should hit the button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series we get to cover. Yesterday it was the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Today it's the Lionheart Retro Series. And in a couple of weeks' time, we'll kick off the Lionheart Speedway Series as well. Let's take a look at our featured driver. He unfortunately doesn't appear to be in today's field. He was also carrying our HyperX onboard camera, but Aaron Morgan, 29 starts, 19 top 10s, and 14 top 5s. That's a very impressive showing, Dylan, because what we've seen here today, Morgan, a driver who seems to excel on the ovals, where these races can be very, very different and very, very wacky, if you ask me, has had a very impressive run of almost 50% in the top 5.
You know, to add on to what you're saying about him being so good on the ovals, look at the ovals that he finished second at. Michigan and Pocono, two high horsepower kinds of tracks. And you know what? I feel like Homestead would have been a good track for his too. Homestead is a mile and a half that runs like a short track, but also has speeds of a super speedway in a way. And looks like the lights are out, by the way, Arjuna. So will we have green till the end? I don't know.
Well, it will be a 30-lap shootout if we do. Reminder, we can finish under caution, as did happen a couple of years ago when Alex Saunders became the only driver to convert pole position into a race victory. Sage Karam is the most winningest driver in Lionheart Retro Series history. He'll take us back to the green flag as once again Barney the Flagman waves that green flag as we go green flag racing once again in the Espo's designed Miami 200 presented by Sim Experience. Single file at the front of your field, you have to go back to 10th position where Trevor Malone on I don't think he'll be fresh tires given that he spent 5 seconds in pit road, but with that knowledge that he's got a full tank of fuel, now looks to attack and tries to get past DJ Clark.
Well, you know, Trevor Malone, he's the kind of driver who, remember I was saying, he's never won, so you're going to expect him to be a little bit more aggressive. Well, he immediately on the restart, look at that block he tried to make, was not going to work out. Here's where the worry, though, is with tires, as you said.
And Danny Roberts on the inside will not make that work. Roberts, who of course was running around in the top 5, has slipped back to the edge of the top 10. Tom Dreiling will take a look to the inside, not going to make it work. In front, though, Nick de Groot, we talked about him. He's got a rear view mirror filled with Jordan Zaldo defending from a couple of cars. I think that was a lapped car down on the inside, Dylan, just getting out of the way. I think that was Paul Slavonic, who is doing what he can, which is heading out onto track and riding around, hoping for other cars to come unstuck.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure my eyes weren't deceiving me. You know what? Even if he finishes a lap down, it's some pretty good positions right now that are up for grabs. Middle of the pack, pretty decent.
And again, it's an 18-race season that goes all the way from March into December, so you don't want to give up early. All
Right.
these points are going to be very, very important come the end. And meanwhile, your leader is checked out. Almost half a second now separates Sage Cameron from Ricky Harding. 2 wide, 2 deep for third on back. Paul Jenkins on that inside. Chris Reagan rips the outside. Behind him, you've got Mike Rasmas and Chris Reagan doing battle. So they are separated out very slightly then. But Dylan, as the yellow flag waves once again, I think, unfortunately, Alex Guyon has had a big issue here.
Yeah, trying to find exactly where that issue did come from right now. We'll get a replay. So, just comes together. I believe that's a 4-car, and then just gets shunted right there. Flies over, pulls a little bit of a stop. Castro Neves right there. Did the car fly or ride underneath the flying car?
I think it did. It's the 96 of Chris
96.
Staples. Ooh, he jumps off the roll bar there. Let's take one more look at this because that is a very interesting one. Great camera angle that we looked at there. Let's see if this gives us a better look, and we'll go into the super slow-mo. I think we'll see a bit of a hop, skip, and a jump here.
He saved it, too, until car behind. And, oh my goodness, gotta say, talk about some nice acrobatic work. We said 10 out of 10 earlier. That is a 10 out of 10.
And I said hop, skip, and a jump. I think that was pretty accurate as well, the way he skipped off the top of that car. So back under caution, we are once again. And Alex Guyon, who I think was already 1 lap down, finds himself back on pit road, getting some repairs. Left-hand side of your screen, let's take a look at these movers and shakers once again. And yeah, look at those numbers. It's a sea of green, and it's a sea of very big numbers. You've got about 4 cars in the top 10 that are up double digits. Sorry, 5 cars in the top 10 that are up double digits. And you got someone like Gary Corley up 21 positions. And unfortunately, you just saw there on the left-hand side at the bottom, some of our big losers, they're down 22, 23 positions. I think that gives you just an indication of the attrition, Dylan, that these cars have had out there.
I'm really taking a look at who has the potential to win a race and never has before. Jenkins. This is his 38th race, Arjuna. 0 wins. This could be his time, and to do it, they'll have to battle not only some of the drivers who are also looking for first or second wins, but the GOAT of this series, if you want to talk wins and race ratio, Sage Cameron.
Yep, he's, as mentioned, not won this championship yet, but in how many starts does he have? He's not got that
30.
many starts either. 30 starts, 13 victories gives you an indication of just how successful he has been. Talking about the other drivers, though, Ricky Harding in third. He's won 1 race before, as has Mike Rasmas. Chris Reagan has not won. Your highest running rookie, Nick DeGroot, in 6th position. I did mention at the start of the broadcast that I was watching out for him, and very impressive run, and it shows. If you can write about cars, apparently you can drive them too.
I guess that's true. I guess the other way is true, that if you can talk about cars, you can't drive the cars. Is that what we're saying here?
You know, it depends. If you're Hugo Luis, then yes. If you're Bo Albert, then yes as well. A very impressive debut in the VCA Pro Sim yesterday. If you're you or me, maybe not.
I think if it more so me, maybe not. I mean, we see my performance week in, week out on Race Spot TV on Monday nights. But you know what? DeGroot, he's done a very fine job. And we talked about in the beginning, it's making sure the attrition rate is it's not going to be there. It's just about survival. He's not only had a good run, but he's surviving. And DeGroot didn't qualify all that well. He has a chance, though, to get a pretty high result from this.
And I'm taking a look, by the way, at these series win stats. There are only 11 drivers with more than 1 win in the Lionheart Retro Series in its first 4 years of competition. With 18 rookies, there is lots of opportunity on the table, and in a long season with lots of ups and downs, and just based on what we've seen here today, I would not be surprised, Dylan, if we see a couple of rookies grabbing victories this season.
Yeah, I know that in the YouTube chat right now going on, people are big fans of Chris Staples, the rookie, and you want to know why, Arjuna? Staples is his last name, and that's cool, apparently. But yeah, there's a bunch of drivers who have the opportunity for some high finishes that normally wouldn't have the opportunity based on perhaps the skill level, the resumes of some of the other guys in this race. But with so many rookies in it, over half of them as the lights are out, I mean, it's bound to happen.
And so when we go back, we will have 21 laps left on this race clock. It will be very interesting if we can get to the point of no return. Yesterday's race in the Lionheart IndyCar Series did finish under caution for only the second time in 8 seasons of competition. Can we avoid another finish under caution today? We know that your pole sitter will once again not take the win because unfortunately Chris Fowler will be classified as the 33rd and last car in today's field. But we'll go back to green flag racing. Barney has the flag in his hand. Sage Karam jumps very early on the throttle. And here comes Ricky Harding trying to take advantage of a couple of cars getting a very poor jump. And Ricky Harding rockets his way up into second.
I do wonder if that's part of inexperience starting that high up for Paul Jenkins late in a race, because he did not get on the throttle whatsoever. Harding is going to make Sage Karam sweat a little bit here.
And unfortunately, Jenkins will lose out to Chris Reagan. He'll hold off Mike Razmas, though, for now. Nick DeGroot will jump onto the back of these cars as across the start-finish line we work with 20 laps to go. From the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, Ricky Harding is into the race lead for now, but still side-by-side they work, and they've got some separation, from the cars behind them. It's not going to last for long. As they go side-by-side, they'll slow each other down, Dylan, and they'll bring in those cars behind.
Yeah, and that's a really good point as well. It's not even just that they're battling, it's also the side draft and that they're battling down low on the track. It's not with the speed, the momentum you gain up high. So that means that they're just going to be a little bit slower coming onto the straightaways, which drivers behind, they're not necessarily going that far down the inside.
And we're getting...
What a run, though. What a battle.
What a race it's been as well. Getting word in the YouTube chat that no tires are being taken, so... very interesting there. These tires must be screaming in agony as behind here comes Trevor Malone. He had to come down onto pit road a slightly earlier on. Too wide, too deep. He's stuck behind Paul Jenkins. As around the outside, Chris Reagan rips that high line in towards third position. Trevor Malone will slide up the track and get in front of Mike Razmas as Chris Reagan goes through the virtual internet lines to not be at the virtual Homestead Miami. He'll be causing a little bit of difficulty for the drivers. Malone has to come back down onto the inside, and up checks him up, almost contact with Razmas. And here comes the likes of Nick DeGroot and series organizer George Anzaldo.
Oh, the grimacing happening as I watch some of this stuff. It's I'm sure everyone else is doing that at home and in the cockpit. It's so close, but this is the time to get moves done. This is the time to be aggressive, and they are battling it out. Look at this shot as they come into turn 3.
Too wide at the front, and here comes the rest of the pack as well. Paul Jenkins is back up into third position as they continue that incredible squabble of the third and final step of the podium. At the front, though, Harding down on the inside. Sage Karam rips the high line, tries to pinch the number 5 car down to the white line. And you can see behind them, they are starting to squabble more and more. And that tense face that I'm sure you're making now, Dylan, I'm sure it's getting tenser and tenser.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. God, 15 laps to go here at the line, and these drivers are not giving anyone else an inch. You know what? I'm really surprised that Karam and Harding have been able to stretch out their advantage up front. It's almost a second now.
Trevor Malone, though, up into third once again, and with that separation, those two cars out front will be fighting unless these guys can get themselves organized. Chris Reagan rips down to the inside. Paul Jenkins will lose out. Almost a slide job being thrown, but unable to make it work. Reagan still has that slight internet issues, and I wonder, Dylan, if that's maybe causing these cars to check up, that uncertainty that they have about where they can position their cars.
Yeah, that is one of the worst feelings as a driver behind someone else who is having some of these internet issues. What can you do except check up? It's almost an unfair advantage in a way for the driver who is having these issues. Watch on board right here with the Graphics LC Motorsports driver, Mike Razmas. He is doing a really good job. Oh no, 43 is around.
43's around, but down on the inside. We'll stay under green flag racing then. Quick RaceBot TV replay. Let's take a look at this one. The 43 car of Robert Mikes. Down in towards turn 3, just into the wall, and a very lazy spin. Very fortunate that we stay under green flag conditions. Pick up the live pictures, still side by side for the race lead. But here comes Trevor Malone. Half a second is the gap, and the number 34 car is looking fiery.
Oh man, Trevor Malone wants this race, and because he is not racing anyone for position, and because the two in front of him are, it is helping him gain a load of steam, screaming down the front or the backstretch at 196 miles per hour. These two cars up front, Karam and Harden, they're hard racing, might give Malone a shot here.
Across the line we go. 11 laps to go here in our season opener. We'll have a first-time winner at the Virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, but who will it be? Trevor Malone looks for his first ever Lionheart Retro Series victory. Ricky Harden scraps for his second, while Sage Karam, the all-times win leader, tries to extend his incredible domination in the series. Harden gets down onto the apron, able to save it, but here comes Trevor Malone as they go 3 wide down into turn number 1. And my oh my, 10 laps to go, Dylan. What a race we've got to the end.
Oh, this is just unbelievable. I can tell you one thing, Malone is going to have a head full of steam. There's some lap traffic ahead, some cars just absolutely dicing it out in the back, but it looks like the speed will be again with Malone. Is he going to get a block on him? Arjuna, this is unbelievable.
12 months ago, the margin for victory was 2/100ths of a second. I have a feeling we're going to get even closer than that, and it might be a 3-wide photo finish. Don't count out Mike Rasmussen and Chris Reagan as well. Somehow, George Anzaldo, with significant damage to his car, is up into 7th position and holding on very, very nicely. In fact, he's closing on the race leaders as well. Danny Roberts, Paul Jenkins behind. Nick DeGroot has fallen to 10th, unfortunately. But let's focus our eyes out front, Dylan, because still 3 wide through turn 1. Let's jump on board with Mike Rasmussen. He's got a great view of the action in front.
Great view or great view to be scared by, because there's no room to try and get by these 3 cars that are just running side by side by side. Oh, but look at this. I think Malone made a bit of an issue, made a bit of a mistake. Got too tight, and this has opened the door up for Rasmus.
Could we have 4 wide at the line? Wow, this is incredible.
Oh no! Oh!
Almost contact between Harding and Karam. They hold on to it, and as they catch the lap traffic in front, we close in on the final few laps in our season opener, the Espo's Design Miami 200. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Dylan. I like to do this. Who's going to win this race?
I love it. Love being put on the spot. It is going to be Ricky Harden. He has had what it takes to fight Sage Karam 1-1. He's going to have what it takes to fight these drivers right now out in front. How about you? Put you back on the spot.
Oh, I'm going to say Trevor Malone. I like seeing a first-time victor, and that car looks fiery. Down on the inside, though, Harding still works. His nickname is Harden the Wall. That's definitely not what he wants to be doing today. Very close once again. He touches the apron. Here comes Mike Rasmussen, and unfortunately, Ricky Harding is going to be shuffled down into 5th position. Contact between Malone and Karam across the start-finish line. 3 wide for 3rd. Incredible stuff. And Dylan, I don't even know what's going to happen here.
I mean, we were watching the Flying V formation in its infancy. Everybody has an opportunity. Everyone has a chance to win this race, Arjuna. They are coming to 4 laps to go here in Homestead Miami Speedway.
And it's Robert Mikes who's going to come down onto the inside, make it very easy as these cars scrap it out for the race lead. There you can see the number 43 gets out of the way. Trevor Malone on the high line, Sage Karam down on the inside. Over-under attempted. He looks back to the high line. And wow, they are getting feisty. And for the first time, Dylan, we've talked about how respectful they've been. Now it's about victory, and respect is out the window. All that matters is who gets that checkered flag first.
Respect, that's not a word that's in my dictionary. 3 wide across the line. Everyone who is back into 8th is within 1 second of this battle. It's anyone's race.
3 laps to go. 3 wide, they work for 3rd. Here comes George Anzaldo as well. That damage might still keep him into the fight for a race win here. As we cross the line, we'll have 5 miles. Sorry, not 5 miles to go, 3 miles to go. It's not a 2.5 miler, just a 1.5 miler. I wish we could have a couple more miles of racing though, because this has been legendary. 2 laps left to work. And this sets up what is going to be an entertaining season, Dylan, to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least, that's right. Almost some more beating and banging. Look at that! Mike Rasmus wanted to go to the outside, was going to be squeezed into the safer barrier. We're coming to 1 lap to go. White flag here at Homestead.
1.5 miles to go. They make contact once again. Trevor Malone, Sage Karam, they bump doors. Malone's up into the wall. The big one has happened as we come through turn number 1. Multiple cars getting mixed up. Sage Karam has to defend from Ricky Harding as unfortunately Malone and Zaldo Callisto Reagan, they get caught up in it, but in towards turn 3 for the final time. Ricky Harding looks for his second ever victory in the Lionheart Indy Retro Series, and out of turn number 4, that drag race to the finish line. Unfortunately for him, Sage Karam gets the win in the Espo's Design Miami 200 presented by Sim Experience and takes his 14th victory in the Lionheart Retro Series. An incredible run to the end, contact made, coming to the white flag, but it's Sage Karam rocketing his way up through the field to take another victory, Dylan, here in the Lionheart Retro Series.
I mean, Arjuna, could you have asked for a better opener to Season 5 of this Retro Series? No, you couldn't. Sage Karam, 14th win in his 31st start in the Retro Series, and you know what? He deserved it. He flew his way from the mid-pack to the front, never let go, and in the final 2 corners, he had the outside, meant he had the momentum, and let's see what his burnouts will be like.
Did some burnouts yesterday in the VCO Pro Sim Series, competing against the best in the real and virtual worlds on the top level of sim racing, and he comes here into Lionheart Retro Series and kicks off his season and his quest to become a champion in the Lionheart Retro Series in the perfect way possible. What a race to kick off 18 races here in the Lionheart Retro Series as Sage Karam takes victory from the virtual Homestead Miami. Let's go ahead and take a look at our final race results. They are brought to you by Carnox, sponsors of the Lionheart Racing Series. Sage Karam takes victory, the margin just 0.02 of a second bigger than last year, but only 0.02 of a second separate the 2 team cars, Sage Karam and Ricky Harding, kicking off this campaign in the best way possible. DJ Clark, GSRC's own DJ Clark, up into 3rd, incredible drive there. Mike Rasmus in 4th, Danny Roberts recovers to 5th. Paul Jenkins, Nick DeGroot, very good runs for those 2 drivers, up into 6th and 7th, along with Tom Dreiling, Gary Corley, and Jean-Francois Matt. Unfortunately for Matt, after starting in 2nd place, slightly disappointing opening stint, dropped in through the field, recovers very nicely. Chris Staples across the line in 11th with series organizer Enzaldo after getting caught up in that last lap incident across the line in 12th. Malone, Reagan, Mikes, and Hearn, they're 1 lap down, along with Paul Slavonic and Ariel Alanis and Lionel Callisto getting to the checkered flag, and then the run of non-finishers. Alex Guyon, and then from 21st on back, Jason Galvin, Mike Rigney, Chris Lanini, Joe Hassett, Mark Cohn, David Clymer, Matt Taylor, Adam Young, Dustin Wardlow, Michael O'Brien. The list goes on, and we finally finish it up with Covey Moore, Ken Hacker, and Chris Fowler. So, wow, Dylan. Wow.
Yeah, it was a good race. Just a little bit of a good race.
Just a little bit. And we will now wait to get in our race winners and the podium finishers as well, so we can go trackside to take a look at our HyperX victory lane and also talk to those podium finishers. But for now, let's dive on into post-race coverage and the HyperX post-race show. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit www.hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. So we are waiting for those drivers to come on in, and I think Sage Karam is standing by. So let's go down then to HyperX Victory Lane, where Dylan Cole is ready with Sage Karam.
Yeah, Sage Karam, a win at Homestead, Miami to open up Season 5 of the Retro Series. Sage, that was a wild final 15 laps. Take us through it. Where were you mentally fighting alongside everyone there?
Yeah, that got pretty wild for sure. I knew the middle lane was probably the preferred lane. It seemed like guys on the bottom had to kind of lift, and when I was running side by side in the middle of the race there with a lot of cars, I was able to see that I was getting to the stripe before they were, and then it seemed like the third lane up, they just couldn't really get the momentum off the corner in time to get to the line. So I was like, I need to keep this middle line with all I got, and I started getting squeezed there by Trevor. He really wanted the middle, he really wanted me to go low, but I just wasn't going to give it up, and I think we bounced off each other about 6 times, and then unfortunately he spun. But it was a great fight. It was a lot of fun. It's past midnight right now, so it's actually my birthday right now too. So I'm 26, so that's a good birthday present.
Sage, well, happy birthday there. I'm happy there's another East Coast person. PA, right? You still there?
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia for me, brother. So. The final 2 corners, I really was thinking right when you kind of pinned Ricky Harden all the way down to the line, almost at the apron, I felt like right there was the winning move. Did you figure you wanted to put him in the worst case scenario? He'd get the worst momentum. You were higher, you would get more speed.
I mean, I knew going into turns 3 and 4 just from everything else in the race, over a race, you just kind of strategize, and you're just thinking about where to be in the best spot, come to the end of the race. And I just knew while I was experimenting, if I could pin them down earlier, they had to do a bigger lift in the middle. And if I knew I was about halfway alongside them in the middle of 3 and 4, then I'd get the run off and be able to beat them to the line. So, that was the plan, to, hopefully be in the middle lane coming out of 2, run the middle all the way down the straightaway. I figured I'd probably have somebody to the inside of me, and then I wasn't going to really track out and do a traditional line. I was going to just kind of keep it pinched down there and make life hard for them, since it's last lap. But, it all worked out. It was a great race. Not really sure why I qualified so bad. I got to, look into that and, work on that, because it was pretty sketchy in the beginning of the race, getting up to the front. So definitely got to work on qualifying, but it's definitely a good bounce back after last night's IndyCar race.
Yeah, and actually we were talking about when you were taking your qualifying laps. It was a bit of a different line than we saw most drivers using. You kind of wanted to make the track as short as possible, as small as possible. And at the end of the day, it was only 600ths or so that you qualified behind the leader. So from that, what do you have to say, I guess, out of your qualifying run? What do you feel like you could improve on?
Yeah, I don't really know the difference I could have done in qualifying. I was flat and, thought I did the shortest line possible, but unfortunately it just wasn't enough. And, I don't know. I was surprised with the gap, to the leaders. I thought I would have been a lot closer, so I definitely got to look into it and see what I can do differently.
Awesome. Well, a win in the first race of the season. Sage, good luck the rest of the way. We'll be following you throughout it.
Yep, thank you guys.
All right, that was Sage Karam. It's quite a popular race, I think we'd say, Arjuna. One of the best that we've ever seen from the Retro Series.
Yeah, definitely, and I think Sage Karam, who is now sponsored by HyperX, very happy to be in the HyperX victory lane for the first time this season. Great way to kick it off as well. Ricky Harding then was searching for his second race victory in the Lionheart Retro Series. He's standing by now with Dylan Coyle.
Yes, Ricky Harden, I put my money on you to win, brother, but it just was a little bit too short. And the final lap, take us through it in your mind. What are you seeing? You're seeing all the fighting, you're seeing the crashing, and it comes down to you and Sage.
Man, that's a hell of a race, wasn't it? We were having fun, man. The main thing is I didn't want to wreck Sage. I wanted us to have a good, clean race to the finish there, and I was getting a little tight on the bottom and had to back out, and those guys got around me, and then they all got together and wrecked, and so had a little bit of ground to make up, got under Sage right there going into 1 on the white flag, and I knew I needed to push him up the track in 3 and 4 to beat him because he was going to have a big run off, and I really wasn't willing to wreck both of us to do it. I hoped maybe I got just enough, and I saw him coming back. It was just too late.
So something like a little tap just to let him know that you're there and it's a contact sport. But at the end of the day, you survived, and attrition rates, well, it was low across the board. We were talking about potential green flag pit strategies. Do you feel like before that final caution, you may have had enough to go the entire length of the race?
Yeah, I think we were good with the 1 caution. I actually think I was going to save enough to make it with no yellows, but it was going to be awfully close. With the first caution, I knew we were going to be good. I was burning fuel on the second caution just trying to make it, and I know Sage was too, so we were in good shape there.
So going ahead for the rest of the season, I mean, you still are looking for that second win in your portfolio. Where do you feel like that might be, your second win might come? What tracks do you feel like you're strongest at?
Well, obviously, last season I was really strong at Michigan and Auto Club. Those are going to be our 2 tracks that we have circled on the calendar, and I think we're going to do well. I'm obviously an oval specialist. I'm not that great on the road courses, so I'm just going to try to do the best I can, finish in the top 10 on the road courses if I can get there, and then compete for the wins here on all the ovals.
Awesome. Well, Ricky, a second-place finish. It was a very fun race to watch, and I'm sure from your point of view, it was a race you don't want to race in again. You just want to watch the after effects because it was a little bit nerve-wracking. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we white-knuckled it. Got to give a shout-out to my sponsors this season, Scott Rupp, Midwest Simulation Spotlights. I could not live without those spotlights, especially on a track like this. Cars inside, cars outside. Those lights report immediately when there's a car beside me. They're invaluable. Thank you to James Krahula, Sim Racing Merch, and George and Zotto, everybody at Lionheart. This is so fun. I love driving this retro car in particular is just a lot of fun. Thank you to Race Spot. You guys have a fantastic broadcast and great coverage. Thank you guys for coming on board. HyperX, can't say enough. Love my headset. Can't wait to do more work with them.
Awesome. We appreciate that here, Ricky, and take care. Arjuna, it's always nice to hear the excitement from a driver who finishes in second, you know?
And adrenaline pumping through his veins, I'm sure. It is late. It is past midnight, as Sage mentioned, and I think for Ricky as well, it must be past midnight as well. I don't think they're going to be sleeping anytime soon, though. One final interview to get through. I don't think DJ Clark, when he started this race off, was necessarily expecting to talk to us, but he's standing by with Dylan Cole for our final interview of the day.
Yeah, how about rookie DJ Clark getting those rookie stripes off and dirty in quite a great way? A podium in your first race, DJ. How do you feel?
I don't have words right now, which is normally a change from the way I normally am. I really have to thank George and David and everybody who puts the league on for inviting me in and letting me run. This has been a dream come true to do this. And I also have to give massive thanks to Off Track with Hinchin Rossi and everybody at Anthem Entertainment who put the stuff on the car. Dylan, I'm speechless. I have no idea how I did that.
I completely understand the feeling, and you know what? It wasn't just a race of just trying to survive, even though it was part of it. You got to have that talent to get up into a podium spot as well. And look at who you also were on the podium with, a IndyCar driver in the real world. So I'm sure that leaves you a little bit more speechless. But it just seemed like the entire race, it never died down. Did you want to get yourself encroached in battles, or were you just happy with letting it play out and see what happens?
I'll be honest, at the beginning, I wanted to stay a little bit more involved than I was. I obviously fell back. I think I was running dead last there at the end of the first stint before the first yellow came out. And it was just a matter of, the track really wasn't coming to me. I just wasn't feeling it right. And that was frustrating. I didn't want to be that far down. But as the race went along, I just kind of wanted to be holding back and waiting. And that was kind of the plan all along, just letting the race come to me. And that's kind of what I did, and it worked out.
Awesome. Well, DJ, going forward, and I did ask this question to Ricky, where do you feel like your strongest runs may be at tracks that lie ahead? Do you feel like you're a road course racer? Do you feel like you're an oval specialist all around? What can we expect from you for the rest of the season?
Well, certainly ovals are my bread and butter. I'm originally from Indianapolis, so you just kind of grow up with open wheel cars turning left. That's the way you do things. But I spent a lot of the off season ever since I got the invite from George to be running retro, pretty much trying to spend about 30 minutes to an hour a day in the sim just running hot laps on road courses. So I don't want to say I'm going to be competing for positions where I am like this on road courses, but I want to at least be in the thick of things and not make a fool out of myself. But I definitely think that top 10s are hopefully, knock on wood, don't want to get too cocky, but definitely in order, I think, for ovals going forward.
Awesome, and we certainly hope that that's something you can provide. It was a great first showing, DJ. Congratulations again. I'm sure you're elated.
Thanks, Dylan, and thank you, guys.
Awesome. Well, Arjuna, we've heard from the podium. How about they hear from us? Oh my goodness, that race was incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And I've just sat back during those interviews and just been watching these great footage that we're getting of these cars as they were coming to the line. They're scrapping it out with 4 to go, as you see up on the screen right now. And we'll let that roll through as we finish up our HyperX post-race show here. But Dylan, I mean, you put it best. What a race this was. And we'll return in 2 weeks' time on a Thursday night from the virtual Watkins Glen in upstate New York for our first road race of the season. And that's going to be a real game changer. We've seen just how crazy these races can be. And we'll head to Watkins Glen, which in some ways can kind of race like an oval circuit, and really set these guys out to try and set the expectations for the rest of these road courses throughout the season.
Yeah, Watkins Glen is wildly different than to Homestead Miami, but Watkins Glen, like you said, it is sort of races like an oval in certain points. The bus stop, the carousel, it's all familiar in some aspects, and it's a fast road course. It's one of the fastest in the world, really, when it comes to road course racing. That's why stock cars like it. They love the banked parts there, and I think we're going to have another great show to be put on here. We've got a lot of races within an 8 or so week span. Every 2 weeks, we've got a race up until Phillip Island, and then we take a little bit of a break, getting set for a Midwest swing.
Well, and of course, the month of May, you can't be too busy in that. There's other things that, of course, are taking place. But of course, lots of races still to go, 17 races, and if they're as entertaining as this one was, what a race season we've got in store. Couple of thank yous to go to before we say goodbye. This race, of course, the Espo's Design Miami 200, presented by Sim Experience, was sponsored by Espo's Design, a leader in design work specializing in highly detailed virtual helmet designs on the iRacing.com service. Bringing your passion for motorsports to life through art, get yourself a racing identity. For more information, visit Espo's Designs on Twitter for more. Let's also talk about the major sponsors of this series, because there are lots of people that help make this happen. First up, it's Sim Experience, the title sponsors of this series. The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit www.simexperience.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on the HyperX products, visit www.hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. For sim racers, the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit adds the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in all of sim racing? For more information, visit www.thebuttkicker.com, and don't forget to use promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders. Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit www.minus273.biz. Don't forget to also use promo code Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Last but not least, looking for entertaining sim racing content like coverage of this race? Look no further than the DMLC Racing channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at thedmlcracingchannel.com. It's not just those sponsors that bring you the Lionheart Racing Series, though. It's all of these ones as well. You can visit LionheartRacingSeries.com for more information about all of these sponsors, but for now, we'll say goodbye to you. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpot TV, my name has been Arjuna Kenkipati, and I've been joined by Dylan Coyle for the entirety of today's broadcast. We've had TV cameras and car cameras provided by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson, and live timing provided by our partners at timing71.org. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on a Thursday night for round 2 of this series, live from Watkins Glen. But if you want more Lionheart Racing Series action, check in on that Monday before as we kick off the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by the DMLC Racing channel. For the entire team at RaceSpot TV, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again live for more Lionheart Racing Series action soon.